I didn't set out to change anything. I wasn't trying to start a war or tear down the system. I was just living. But somehow, that was enough to make them notice. For as long as I can remember, the world followed certain rules. Everything was structured, controlled, predictable. People moved in patterns, spoke in rehearsed lines, lived within invisible cages they didn't even know existed. I used to move like them too, until something inside me cracked. At first, it was small. A whisper, a feeling, a shift I couldn't explain. The way people looked at me started to change. The way spaces felt when I entered them. As if reality itself was responding to me. And then, the effects grew stronger. Conversations took unexpected turns. Systems that had stood unshaken for generations started to show fractures. People who had never dared to question their lives began waking up, asking things they weren't supposed to ask. I wasn't loud about it. I didn't make speeches or rally crowds. I just existed outside their rules, and somehow that was enough to shake their foundation. That's when they started watching. First, from a distance, whispers, glances, subtle attempts to contain me, then with more urgency. And now, they've sent someone after me. Not just any investigator, someone who doesn't need cameras or wiretaps to track me, someone who can sense the shifts I cause, who can read the energy trails I leave behind. They understand things most people don't. They know I'm different. But here's what they don't understand. I didn't ask for this, and I'm not afraid. They think they can study me, predict me, control me. But I am not part of their system. I don't move in straight lines. And no matter how hard they try to catch me, they will never truly understand what I am becoming. They sent someone after me. Not just any investigator, someone different. Someone who doesn't just look for footprints in the sand or names on a list. No, this one sees more than that. They understand the spaces between reality, the cracks where unseen things slip through. They hunt in ways most people wouldn't even understand. At first, I didn't know they were watching. I moved as I always had, not thinking about the wake I was leaving behind. But something shifted. The air felt heavier. Patterns around me changed. It was subtle, like the feeling of being watched from just outside your vision. That's when I knew. I wasn't just disrupting the system anymore. I had become a problem they couldn't ignore. I didn't intend to leave a trail, but I guess I do. Not in the way they expect, though. It's not digital footprints or surveillance footage. It's something deeper. When I move, the world bends. The cracks in their carefully built structures widen. People start to see through the illusion. Corruption that once hid in plain sight becomes obvious. It's not that I'm exposing it directly, it's just that my existence makes it impossible to ignore. That's why they sent the hunter. This isn't some ordinary officer with a badge and a notebook. No, this one is different. They don't just chase, they study, they analyze, they adapt. They don't need orders to know where to look. They feel it. They sense the fractures I leave behind, the shifts in energy, the moments where reality itself hesitates because I was there. And the closer they get, the more intense things become. The people in charge, they're panicking. They thought they had control, that they could predict everything, contain every variable. But I wasn't supposed to happen. Not like this. Not now. So they watch their detectives' every move, waiting for the moment they can strike. I know they're closing in. I can feel them just beyond the veil, pressing against the edges of my existence, trying to force me into the patterns they understand. But that's the thing. They don't understand me. They never will. I don't follow their rules. I don't move in ways they expect. And the harder they try to catch me, the more they prove that their power was always an illusion. They think they're hunting me. But what if they're only chasing their own destruction? I was never supposed to stand out. I was meant to blend in, to move through life unnoticed. Just another face in the crowd. And for a while, I did. I followed the rules, kept my head down, ignored the whispers inside me that said there was something more. I was told that if I just stayed in my lane, things would be easier, simpler, safer. But something inside me refused to stay quiet. It started as a spark, a thought, a feeling, a pull towards something I couldn't explain. And then, before I even realized what was happening, the spark turned into a fire. It wasn't something I could control. It wasn't something I asked for. But once it started, there was no putting it out. I tried to ignore it, to push it down, to convince myself that nothing had changed. But the world around me knew better. I could feel it shifting, rearranging itself in response to me. The things that once felt stable suddenly seemed fragile. Conversations took on a new weight. Places I had been 100 times before felt different, charged with something I couldn't name. And people felt it too. Some were drawn to me without knowing why. Others kept their distance, unsettled by something they couldn't see but could sense. That's when I knew this wasn't just happening inside me. It was happening through me. I wasn't just changing. I was causing change. My presence alone was enough to send ripples through the reality they had so carefully constructed. The cracks in their perfect system became visible, the flaws impossible to ignore. And once people saw the cracks, they started asking questions. They started waking up. That's when the system panicked. Because I wasn't supposed to happen. Not like this. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I was supposed to stay small, stay hidden, stay compliant. But something in me broke free. Something bigger than I could have imagined. And now, there's no going back. They see me now. They feel me. They don't fully understand what I am, but they know enough to be afraid. They know that the world is shifting, that their control is slipping. And they know that, somehow, I am at the center of it. I didn't choose this, but I won't run from it either. At first, they ignored me. I wasn't a threat, just another face, another nameless figure moving through their world. They saw me, but they didn't see me. I wasn't on their radar, and that was fine with me. I wasn't trying to be noticed. I wasn't trying to disrupt anything. I was just being. But something shifted. I don't know the exact moment it happened, but suddenly, the way they looked at me changed. First, it was curiosity. Small glances, quiet observations, a lingering hesitation when my name came up. Then, it became something more. I could feel the weight of their attention pressing down on me, tracking my movements, analyzing my choices. Because I wasn't fitting into their pattern anymore. I wasn't predictable. I wasn't controllable. And that terrified them. They had built a system designed to manage everything. Human behavior, thoughts, emotions, even the way people dreamed. They had spent lifetimes perfecting their methods, making sure no one stepped too far out of line. Anyone who did was either corrected, silenced, or absorbed back into the machine. But I wasn't following the script, and worse, I wasn't the only one noticing it. People around me started changing too. Not because I told them to, not because I led some movement, but because something in me, something I couldn't even explain, was breaking the illusion. And once the illusion cracked, it couldn't be unbroken. That's when they panicked. They held emergency meetings behind closed doors, trying to understand what was happening. They pored over data, looking for patterns, for weaknesses, for ways to contain whatever had slipped through their control. Because this wasn't just about me anymore. It was about the idea of me, the possibility that someone, anyone, could exist outside of their control. So they escalated. At first, it was subtle. Increased surveillance, small manipulations, quiet warnings. Then, it became more aggressive. Misinformation, isolation, attempts to turn people against me. And when that didn't work, they turned to fear. Whispers started spreading. Doubts planted in the minds of those around me. Was I dangerous? Had I lost my way? Was I becoming something unnatural? They think if they push hard enough, I'll break, that I'll shrink back, fade into the background, become something small and manageable again. But they don't understand. I can't go back. The world doesn't fit the same way it used to. And no matter what they do, no matter how much they try to force me back into their system, the truth is already out. And that's what terrifies them the most. They don't come at me directly. That would be too obvious, too messy. Instead, they try to pull the strings from the shadows, hoping I won't notice, hoping I'll second-guess myself. At first, they tried to recruit me. They made it seem like an opportunity, an invitation to be part of something bigger. Why fight the system when you can work within it, they asked. Why resist when you could have influence, power, a seat at the table? But I saw the trap for what it was. It wasn't an offer, it was a cage, dressed up as a gift. A way to contain me, to limit my reach, to make me harmless while letting me believe I still had control. When I refused, the mask started to slip. That's when they shifted tactics, doubt, isolation, fear. It started with the people around me. Friends became distant. Conversations felt different, like they were being guided by something unseen. People who once stood beside me hesitated as if they weren't sure what I was anymore. Some stopped returning my calls. Others looked at me with quiet suspicion, as if I had changed into something unfamiliar, something dangerous. And then came the whispers, subtle at first, but growing louder. Are you sure you're okay? You don't seem like yourself. Maybe you're overthinking things. Maybe you're imagining all of this. You should be careful. People are talking. They know exactly what they're doing. They don't need to physically restrain me. They just need me to question myself. They just need me to feel alone. Because when someone feels isolated, they start to shrink. They start to doubt their own reality. And if they can make me doubt myself, they don't need to fight me. I'll do their work for them. But I see it now. I see how they twist perception, how they shape the world around me to make me feel like the enemy, like I'm the one who's lost my way. They want me to believe that if I just stop, if I just go back to being small and quiet, everything will return to normal. But normal is the lie. I won't shrink. I won't fade. And no matter how much they watch, how much they push, how many invisible hands try to steer me back into place, I'm not going back. I never asked for this. I didn't wake up one day and decide to change everything. I wasn't trying to stand out, wasn't trying to shake the foundations of the world. But somehow, just by existing, by refusing to shrink, to conform, to pretend, I did. And people noticed. Some don't know what it is about me, only that something feels different. I walk into a room and conversations shift. People pause mid-sentence, glancing my way as if trying to place a feeling they can't quite explain. It's not about words or actions, it's something deeper, something unspoken. For some, it's a spark of recognition. They don't understand why, but they feel something. A pull, a curiosity, a need to come closer. They ask questions, not always with words, but with their eyes, with their energy. What is this? Why does it feel like something is waking up inside me? Just by being near you. Others react differently. Fear, resistance, a tightening of the jaw, a subtle step back, a nervous glance like I'm a fire they don't want to get too close to. Not because I've done anything to them, but because something about me forces them to see things they've spent their whole lives avoiding. Some people crave the truth. Others would do anything to stay asleep. It's strange, watching the world shift around me without even trying. Doors open that shouldn't, paths appear that weren't supposed to exist. Patterns I was never meant to break collapse with the weight of my presence alone. And the more it happens, the more I realize this was never just about me. Because every person I touch, every mind I spark, every chain I break, it spreads, it ripples, it sets off something in others that they can't ignore. And that's what makes me dangerous. Not because of anything I do, but because of what I represent. A reminder that the world isn't as fixed as they were told. A possibility that they too could be more than what they were led to believe. That's why the system watches me so closely. That's why some want to study me, some want to stop me, and some want to be me, because they see what I am now. A disruption, a fracture in the illusion, a sign that change isn't coming, it's already here. They tried everything. First, they ignored me, hoping I'd fade back into the background. When that didn't work, they tried to recruit me, thinking I could be controlled if given the right incentives. When I refused, they whispered doubts into the ears of those around me, turning friends into skeptics and allies into strangers. But none of it worked. I didn't break, I didn't disappear, and worst of all, for them, I didn't stop. Now they're desperate. Their usual tactics aren't enough anymore. The quiet manipulations, the carefully placed roadblocks, the subtle pressures that keep most people in check, useless against me. I don't fit into their categories. I don't follow their patterns. Every time they think they've figured me out, I move in a way they never expected. Every time they try to contain me, I slip through their fingers. So they escalate. The pressure becomes more obvious, the resistance more forceful. Systems that once operated in the shadows step into the light. They don't just watch me anymore, they interfere. Unexpected obstacles appear in my path. Plans that should work suddenly fall apart for no logical reason. People I've never met seem to know my name, to have opinions about me they couldn't have formed on their own. And yet, despite everything, I remain. They don't understand how. They don't understand me. I can see it now. The fear in their movements, the frustration in their responses, the way they scramble for new strategies, for new ways to force me back into place. But they won't find one. Because the truth is, I don't fit into the world they built. I was never meant to. That's why they can't predict me. That's why they can't control me. And that's why, no matter what they do next, they will fail. Everything they did to stop me only made me stronger. I used to wonder if I was imagining it, if I was just being stubborn, if I was refusing to see the world for what it was. But now, I know the truth. The more they tried to contain me, the more I grew. Every obstacle sharpened me. Every attempt to suppress me only revealed more of who I really am. I don't fit into their world anymore. Maybe I never did. I can feel the old paradigm slipping away, the one where I was supposed to follow the rules, stay in line, and play my part like everyone else. But I can't unsee what I've seen. I can't unknow what I've become. The person I was before wouldn't even recognize me now, and the world feels it too. The things that once seemed unshakable, laws, traditions, expectations, now feel fragile, almost meaningless. People sense the shift, even if they don't fully understand it. Some embrace it, some resist it, but no one can ignore it. The air is charged with something new, something inevitable, because my existence alone has changed everything. They wanted me to disappear, to go back to being small, to slip quietly into the framework they built. But I am the disruption. My presence alone forces reality to recalibrate, to expand beyond what it was meant to be. I didn't ask for this, I didn't plan for it, but I won't run from it either, because the transformation isn't just happening to me, it's happening through me, and the world will never be the same again. There is no going back, not because I don't want to. Part of me, in moments of exhaustion, wonders what it would be like to fade into the background again, to slip into the quiet, predictable life I once had. But that life doesn't exist anymore. Not for me, not for anyone who has seen what I've seen. I have changed, and so has the world. The transformation wasn't just personal, it rippled outward, touching everything. I see it in the way people hesitate now, the way they question things they once accepted without thought. The system that held everything in place, the one that controlled, manipulated, and dictated reality, isn't as stable as it used to be. Cracks have formed, and they're spreading faster than anyone can contain. And they can't contain it. They tried. They threw everything they had at me: silence, suppression, manipulation, fear. But none of it worked the way they wanted. Every attempt to stop me only proved that their control was an illusion. Every effort to erase me only made my presence undeniable. Now their system is collapsing under its own weight. Not because I fought it head-on, but because it was never built to withstand someone like me, someone who doesn't obey its rules, who doesn't follow its patterns, who doesn't break so easily. And I am not the only one. That's what they're most afraid of. Not just me, but the fact that my existence has sparked something in others. The whispers are growing louder. The illusions are fading. People are waking up, questioning, stepping outside the invisible lines they were taught to never cross. I didn't set out to lead a movement. I didn't plan to rewrite the rules. But now, it doesn't matter what I intended. The change has already begun, and there is no turning back.